Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mithcell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, I made a 10-step plan for Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce to follow before the NFL draft. What's kind of crazy is the draft's basically a month away, so what I wanted to do is put together a 10-step plan to really help illustrate what we need to do to make sure we are 100% ready for the biggest draft of our lives. I don't know if y'all know this, but hit that subscribe button. We are in a battle against our 49ers channel this week. And all I'm asking is don't let me down. So if anybody's watching the show right now, if you're a 49ers fan watching the show, don't subscribe. If you're a Raider fan that can't stand the Bay, that can't stand the 49ers, now's your time to subscribe. Because if there's one thing I don't want to do, I don't want to lose. So let's just win, baby. Let's go to my 10-step plan here for the Las Vegas Raiders. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut Janarius Robinson. And in fact, I can't really figure out how this guy's even still a part of this team. He had a DUI about a month ago at this point, and it was a really bad situation. He was intoxicated in a parking lot outside of a casino where apparently he ran into a woman. I mean, not like ran her over, but at least just like ran into her. It was a horrible, horrible situation from top to bottom. And Antonio Pierce this week said this about adding players to the Raiders. I'm the guardian at the gate, not letting any evil come through that building. Here's the thing, Antonio. You've done a phenomenal job of practicing what you preach. Now is also your time to do it. I feel horrible for Robinson because he signed a one-year deal. He had an opportunity to change his life, but he showed you that he can't be trusted. So if you're going to practice what you preach, you need to go ahead and do it because I'm sorry, this situation with the Raiders is totally different than all 31 other NFL teams. Why? Because recently, the Henry Ruggs situation. I'm not going to get into the details. If you don't know it, that's on you. But because of what happened, you need to cut Janarius Robinson. It is a black eye in this organization right now. Let's go to the next thing that the Raiders need to do. You need to replace Robinson. You need to go out and sign an edge for depth. And some people are going to hate at what I just said there. But you know what? I do this show based on what I personally believe if I was the person running this organization. And I don't want somebody like Janarius Robinson rocking the silver and black. I don't think he deserves to wear the jersey. So for that, now I got to go out and I got to find somebody that I can build around just for a little bit of depth. And sure, you have Tyree Wilson, who's going to be that extra player with Crosby and Kuntz. But on top of that, though, Tyree's going to be playing on the inside. And no disrespect to Smith, Snowden, and Agoa, though I have seen Agoa, and he is getting in pretty incredible shape, and he's a hell of an athlete. He just needs to learn the game, I think, a little bit more. But I'm looking for somebody that I can add, that I can rely on. And I'm not sitting up here saying that a guy like Kyle Van Noy is your exact replacement for Janarius Robinson, but I know that I can trust Kyle Van Noy. I know he is a hell of a player, still playing at a pretty high level. You're probably not going to be able to get him for cheap, but he does offer you good depth. Has been with Telesco before, has been with a bunch of, he's been with Christian Wilkins before, he's been with Patrick Graham before, he's been with Rob Leonard before, he's been with a lot of the coaches that we have on this team. Another name that I'll throw out there is Carl Lawson. He has had a lot of injuries. But if I'm going to take a flyer on a guy, maybe it's not that bad of an option who could be willing to take a one-year prove-it deal. Another name that I'll throw out there is Melvin Ingram. And Melvin Ingram is not young. He's 35 years old. However, he did sign with the Miami Dolphins last season when they needed him. And if all I need is a little bit of a depth piece that could come in on a cheap deal, could be a veteran, could help out a player like a Malcolm Kuntz in a potential contract season for him, I think it'd be a smart move for the silver and black. Let's go to the next plan here that I would do for the Raiders. I would sign a left guard in free agency. And for some of you that watched my show that I put on when I was live, it's no secret. I want the Raiders to move over Dylan Parham to right guard, and I want the Raiders to put Thayer Munford at left guard and then draft a tackle in the draft, potentially in round one, to build an offensive line. So, Mitch, you just said put Thayer Munford at left guard in free agency. You're right, but I'm not going to give him the job. I'm not going to give anybody the job right away. And if I can go out and sign a Laken Tomlinson for a cheap deal, maybe Tomlinson's just your backup guard. Maybe he's your sixth man. Maybe you then, if you're legitimately considering getting somebody that could be a starter, well, let's get Dalton Risner. You put Dalton Risner then at left guard. You have Colton Miller at left tackle, Andre James at center. Your right guard situation then, as I said, is Dylan Parham. And then you let Thayer Munford compete for whoever you end up bringing in the 2024 NFL Draft. I just don't like the idea that we're just going to hand the keys to somebody that has been shaky at times. And I get it. You have to take risks. But what I'm not willing to do is risk my entire right side of my offensive line, which is by far the biggest weakness outside of quarterback for the Silver and Black right now. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to sign a cheap and versatile wide receiver. I do not love the depth on the wide receiver position for the Raiders. It is extremely, extremely top-heavy. You got Devontae, you got Jacoby, you got Trey Tucker. But I'm going to get into some names here who I would consider going out and signing to be a little bit versatile, because with the new NFL kick return rules, this position becomes a little bit more important for the Silver and Black. I'll get into those names, but I don't want y'all to stress, and I don't want you to stress about the names, and I don't want you to stress about getting tickets to your favorite events either. Last-minute tickets. Who waits till the last minute? I know my fiance does. My point is this. I love Game Time because I love being able to go watch sporting events, comedy, and I don't want to have to stress about how I'm going to get these tickets. Now, for some of you, I want you to download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. And if you're wondering, Mitch, well, why do you love the Game Time app? I like it because I can get last-minute tickets. I like that there's flash deals, zone deals. I'm a sucker for a good deal. I like that it's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. You can see where you're going to be sitting in the venue, which is a major, major plus. The lowest price guaranteed. There's event cancellation protection. And the all-in price shows you total upfront. So you knowing that you're getting a great deal before you check out is a huge weight off my shoulders. Some of the other things, like I like going to watch hockey. Hockey is probably one of the best sports to watch live. And when you're out in Vegas, I want y'all to go check out the Golden Knights. They're a hell of a team. But you can also go watch comedy events. You can see popular events in your area. UFC is, I get it, it's a little bit up there in price. It's $300. Oh, dude, we got to watch that one. We got to be there. But there's all sorts of different events. They also have events that are like under $50. Like you can go see Marshmello in Vegas for under $50. Like, that's pretty damn good to me. You can also watch minor league baseball. Like if I had a son, daughter under the age of 10, and I'm like just looking for something to do, a nice little family bonding time, you go to one of these events and you're going to have a hell of a time, and they're going to remember it for a very long time. So for those that don't know how to spell Chat Sports, one, it's here. It's also up there. CHATSPORTS is the code for $20 off. Obviously, terms apply. Create an account. Redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I love me some Game Time, and I believe that y'all will too. So please go check it out. Link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. So when you look at the Raiders' wide receiver depth chart, DJ Turner, Christian Wilkerson, they don't inspire a lot of confidence in me, right? So what I figured I would do here is, all right, could I potentially add somebody that offers me some special teams value in the kick return game, because now the kick returning area is a little bit more important, and the Raiders no longer have DeAndre Carter. He's a free agent currently. Could you sign somebody like a Jamal Agnew? Jamal Agnew is a hell of an athlete, and he was a pretty solid returner last season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another name that I would at least consider to keep in mind is Jakeem Grant. Now, he has had two horribly awful injuries the past 2 seasons, but that also probably means potentially cheap player that you're able to bring in on a cheap 1-year prove-it deal. If he's healthy, he can still bring that electric factory. Also, a guy like Byron Pringle, maybe a guy like Laviska Shenault, just some other names to throw out there that you could potentially add. Next thing that I would do if I was the Raiders, I would sign a veteran corner. And the reason why I would sign a veteran corner is because I am more confident in the corners that are available to you in free agency than the right tackles that are available to you in free agency. And if I'm painting my picture perfect world here, I would rather the Raiders draft a right tackle at pick 13 than a corner. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Terrion Arnold. I love me Quinion Mitchell, but I'm trying to build the best overall team. And if you told me I could go out and sign a Xavier Howard, which right now, based on reports, it sounds like he is interested in the Houston Texans probably the most. He also has a lot of ties with Gerald Alexander. He's got ties with Patrick Graham. He's got ties with our defense. But if you told me, Mitch, what's a better combination, Xavier Howard and Talisi Fuaga, or Thayer Munford and Terrion Arnold, I'm going to take Xavier Howard, and I'm also going to go with Talisi Fuaga. Like, that's how I kind of looked at the situation. That's with Howard. The other part of it is you could look at somebody that you're just trying to take a chance on. The take a chance on player for me is Adoree Jackson. If you took a chance on Jack Jones, because that was an Antonio Pierce guy, right? Like, that was like somebody where AP believed in him, let's make it happen. That's kind of how I think Adoree could end up going, because when he was healthy, when he was with Patrick Graham, he was a legit corner. He can do multiple things. So if you want to take that chance on a guy and then still target a corner in maybe like round 3 or 4, Adoree Jackson could be a name to keep in mind. If you just want to go safe, like I'm talking, you're looking for a hitter that's batting 300, not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark, but he's going to get on base. That's Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson's not going to be a legit cornerback one, but he is somebody that's played over 1,000 snaps. I want to say like 4 or 5 straight years, has played in multiple different schemes, has done a bunch of different things. Steven Nelson is the name to keep in mind. If you're like, you know what, we're in Vegas, let's freaking roll the dice here a little bit. If Trey White is healthy, he could be better than all those guys that I just mentioned. Is he going to be healthy, though? He's played in only 10 games over the past 2 years, played in only 21 games the past 3 seasons. He did have a visit with the Raiders. He's visited with a bunch of different teams out there. And yes, the Raiders have brought him in. So my question is, if you do end up rolling with Trey White, then you definitely still have to draft a corner because I don't trust him to be healthy for the entire season. So out of the 4 names that I just mentioned, who would you pick? And I do want you to consider money. Like Xavier Howard's going to be the most expensive. Then I would say it's probably Steven Nelson. Then I'd probably say it's Adoree Jackson. Legitimately, I think Trey White's the cheapest name on here because of the injury history. If it was up to me, I'm looking at either Xavier Howard or Adoree Jackson. But then you have to have the right plan in place for the NFL draft. Let's go to the next 10-step plan here for Las Vegas. I'm going to trade players to get more picks. I want the Raiders to be aggressive during the 2024 NFL draft. I think that this year is going to be a very interesting year, and there's going to be a lot of movement. And if I'm Las Vegas and I want to be ready that in a blink of an eye, I can trade up a bunch of picks to go up and get my franchise quarterback. Even if you got to even trade back into the back end of the first round to take a guy like Michael Penix Jr., I want you to be ready for that. And these are players that at any point I think could be cut. But I also think that you could get at least some value for them based off of their pedigree and based off that it's a brand new regime. Like Byron Young, you're probably going to get a 6th. Matthew Butler is a 7th. Chris Smith's probably a 7th. Divine Diablo's probably a 6th. Jacorian Bennett probably a 6th or a 7th round pick. If you could get a few extra 6s and 7s and get those picks ready to then potentially trade back up into round 5, round 4, because I love the talent at a lot of positions in round 3 and 4, I would trade some of these guys to then help you go get one of those extra players in the NFL draft. And then even if it helps you trade up to go get your franchise guy, which is something that you need to do. Here's something that Antonio Pierce has already started to do, but I would like to see more of it. If I was the Raiders, I would be hyping up J.J. McCarthy, Drake Maye, and Bo Nix so flippin' much. Like Antonio Pierce the other day said that he thought that McCarthy was no doubt a top 3 quarterback because he won a national championship. With the amount of smoke that's going on right now around McCarthy, if I'm the Raiders, I'm saying that I'm interested in McCarthy, that I want him for multiple reasons. One, I would love for a team to trade up to number 2 because there's some reports out there that he could be the second quarterback off the board. There are reports that the Commanders could take him at 2. There's reports that the Vikings like him a lot. Or, dream scenario, I know how ballsy Sean Payton is, and because they did everything that they did to get rid of Russell Wilson, if Sean Payton wants to trade up, they're going to do it for him. And if I'm the Broncos at pick 12 and I hear the Raiders going, I love J.J. McCarthy, I might try to pull the trigger and go up and get him, when in fact, I do not want J.J. McCarthy on the Las Vegas Raiders. One player that I would like is Drake Maye. However, based on the things that I hear, I don't think that the Raiders are going to target Maye. The reason why that I'm hyping up Bo, Maye, and J.J. is because Maye is the only guy that I want. I do not want Bo Nix. I do not want J.J. McCarthy. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm going to trade up. To me, the only person that they're going to be willing to trade up for is Jaden Daniels. And if you know that in the back of your mind, because everybody knows that the Raiders want Jaden Daniels, if I'm Las Vegas, I start hyping up other people. That way other teams think that, oh, wait, the Raiders might want this guy. I got to trade up and go get him, and then maybe Jaden Daniels falls a little bit. And then with Bo Nix, like, I know that there's some people that like Bo a lot more. I'm not a Bo guy. I wouldn't draft Bo in round 1 at all if I was any team in the NFL. There's at times where I watch his tape and I'm like, he shouldn't even be drafted in round 2. There's some people that are very high on him. There's other people that are not. I'm just not one of those guys. If I was the Raiders, though, there were reports that Telesco liked Bo Nix about a month ago. Let's hit those again. Let's bring those back up. Let's get the hype train rolling. That way the Raiders don't end up with a lemon at quarterback. Now, I still got a few more steps to my plan here, but if you don't know, I want you to interact with Jeremy Chuggs and I. You can find Chuggs on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs, or you can hit him up on Instagram at Jeremy_Chuggs. If you don't know that I'm Mithcell Renz 365, then you've just started watching the show. And if you don't know, don't be afraid to interact with both of us online. We'd love to be able to talk to you guys. Let's go to the next step here. Meet with the top quarterbacks in the draft. And because this is a plan to get you ready for the draft, I have essentially done everything in terms of free agency. And now we're getting closer and closer to the draft. Like, I don't expect the Raiders to be able to do all these things right away, but I do want you to at least be prepared. So the quarterbacks that I would meet with, because remember, you only get 30 top visits. So I'm going to use 8 of those visits at the quarterback position. The name that you don't see in here is Caleb Williams. Why? He's already a Chicago Bear. Put a Bears jersey on him. But for Jaden, Drake Maye, J.J. McCarthy, those are the top 3 quarterbacks here. But I also want to meet with Penix. I also want to meet with Spencer Rattler. Their Raiders will meet with Jordan Travis. And then Michael Pratt is another quarterback that I've heard from people that are close to the Broncos that apparently they like him. And at the end of the day, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. What I want you to do is get in the comments right now, and which quarterback are you hoping that the Raiders draft this year? And I know it's a very vague question, and I think I know where most of y'all are going to go, but like, are you going to trade up 3 first-round picks for Jaden Daniels? Are you going to take a Michael Penix Jr. at pick 13? Could you take potentially a Bo Nix in round 2, a Spencer Rattler in round 3, a Joe Milton in round 6, 5, 4? There's some people think he goes even higher. Which quarterback are you hoping the Raiders draft this year? Let's go to step 9 here. Have your draft trades ready. To me, you got to be prepared, and to me, it could be as simple as NFL draft. It's happening right now. If I'm the Raiders, I'm picking up the phone, and I'm calling teams about what you could potentially do. The 5 trades that I would have ready, and I'm not even kidding you when I say this, I would have these ready of, like, you know how I always say, like, here's the trade 1 idea, trade 2 idea, trade 3 idea. I would make that many trades, if not more, for what you would give up for number 2. Have it ready to go. Like, it shouldn't be one of those things where you're on the phone thinking about it. No, have it ready. Be prepared. I want a trade to be ready to move up to 3, a trade to be ready to move up to 4, a trade back from 13, what you would be looking for. Also a trade that what it would take for you to move up to number 1. Like, what teams are you targeting? What players are you targeting? Make yourself a blueprint, Telesco. Make yourself a blueprint, Antonio Pierce. That way, when draft day happens and there's a lot of stuff going on, you go, this is what I want. And this is how I know if I'm paying too much or not. Because if you try to come up with it on the spot, I have a feeling that you're not going to get the deal that you would originally want when you're thinking clearly. In the moment, it's going to be hectic, and I just want you to be prepared. The final thing, and this one might be unpopular, but I want the Raiders. I want Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco. I want their entire staff to get together, and I want them to do a few mock drafts. And why is that crazy? Like, there's some people that are going to look at that and they're like, what? Antonio Pierce, Telesco never going to do a mock draft. Shame on them. If every single NFL head coach GM doesn't take the time out of their day to at least sit down and do a mock draft, shame on them. Like, I don't even think that they deserve to have the job then, because what is the problem with being well prepared? Like, it is literally like taking a practice quiz. It's literally like just getting ready to do the real flipping thing. So, yeah, it's not going to be the same, and every draft is going to be different. However, you can build the perfect draft for you, because there's sometimes, like, I'll do a mock draft, and I'm like, oh, I love that player that I got in round 1. Oh, I love that player that I got in round 2. But then I'm like, ah, man, you know, there's other really good value at that position in round 3, round 4, round 5, where if you're the Raiders, do a bunch of different mock drafts. Like, if I was Las Vegas, I would do a mock draft where, what does my mock draft look like when I take a corner in round 1, when I take a right tackle in round 1, when I take a quarterback in round 1, when I take an edge in round 1. Do different scenarios. We need to be prepared. I am not going to fail in round 1 yet again. It can't happen. It simply can't happen. So here's my 10-step plan for the Las Vegas Raiders before the 2024 NFL Draft. And I want you to grade it for me. A, B, C, D, or F. I know this is a little bit of a different show than what I usually do, but I'd like to do this show based on the idea of, if I was the one calling the shots, if I was the one, what would I do? This is what I would start to plan and put together before the 2024 NFL Draft to put the best team available out there on the field. So let me know down below. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F, and if you want to take a screenshot and put this on social media, remember, I am at Mithcell Renz 365. Jeremy is at Jeremy Chugs on Twitter and at Jeremy_Chugs on Instagram.